Hello, my name is Welcome to the Bearer of Bad News. I'm your host, Lore Bear, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, so I won't. This is your recap of positive news stories from around the world. Articles included in this broadcast were originally published from April 19th to 20th, 2026. The stories in this episode are sourced from various news outlets and publications. The Bearer of Bad News does not conduct independent fact-checking or verification of these stories. Listeners are encouraged to review original sources for accuracy and complete context. We are not responsible for the accuracy or content of third-party reporting, which is a fancy way of saying I read it, I didn't report it, and here are this week's stories. First up, independent bookstores make quiet comeback as big chains dominate retail. From theguardian.com. For years now, we have heard that Amazon and the big chains are crushing small businesses, but independent bookstores are suddenly making a comeback. About 422 new indie bookshops opened in 2025, according to the American Booksellers Association, a 31% rise from 2024. Countless independent restaurants, coffee shops, fitness centers, movie theaters, clothing stores, and other small businesses also continue to thrive even in this era of ever bigger retailers, fast casual restaurants, and massive e-commerce platforms. The reasons are obvious. For starters, we live in a big country. There are 360 million Americans spread across 4 million square miles of land. Big companies can't cover all that ground, and even if they could, it's irrelevant. There were too many different preferences, tastes, likes, dislikes, and passions that will drive consumers to any different type of retailer that they choose. There's also no shortage of entrepreneurism and independence in this country. For the past few years, there have been between 400,000 and 500,000 new business applications filed every month. Millions of people want to own businesses and be their own boss, and these people will find their unique way to present their business products and services to their consumers in order to earn a livelihood. The more the economy consolidates and the more opportunity there is at the edges. It's generally better and more enjoyable for people who work in small businesses, which is why, despite the compensation that larger organizations can offer, small businesses make up half of the country's workforce. It always amazes me when I see clients who are clearly paying their employees less money than they could earn at a big company retain those employees, let alone attract new ones. Why? It's because when you work at a small business, there's less bureaucracy and more flexibility and more of a chance to make a difference than when you work at a bigger company. The smartest owners of independent businesses realize this and leverage these advantages to recruit people that are committed, loyal, and believe in what their leader is trying to do. Independently owned businesses tend to have more of a connection with their communities, which in turn generates more loyalty and attention to their promotions, activities, and special holidays commemorating their existence, such as Small Business Saturday and National Small Business Week. As opposed to the chain store, they create an image of the Main Street merchant fighting the system. Up next, engineered wood provides solar power even after the sun goes down. From techexplorer.com, while sustainable solar energy can potentially meet our global power needs, it has one major flaw. When sunlight disappears, the solar panels stop generating electricity. The problem is that while they do an excellent job of converting light into power, they are not so good at storing the energy they collect. One solution is to use materials known to capture heat and release it later, such as phase change materials, PCMs. However, these can leak when they melt, struggle to conduct heat quickly, and catch fire easily. So researchers from China decided on a different approach, turning wood into a multifunctional solar thermal energy storage material, as they detail in a paper published in Advanced Energy Materials. Re-engineering balsa wood. The team redesigned the internal structure of balsa wood at multiple scales, from nano to micro, to create a material that absorbs sunlight and stores it as heat for later use. It can also generate electricity when that stored heat is released through a thermoelectric device. They first removed the wood's natural lignin, which acts as glue holding the fibers together. This left behind a porous structure of tiny open channels. They then coated the inside of these channels with ultra-thin sheets of black phosphorine, which absorbs sunlight across multiple wavelengths and converts it into heat. However, phosphorine degrades quickly in the air, so the scientists added a protective layer of tannic acid and iron ions. The next step was to add silver nanoparticles to help the wood capture sunlight. Finally, they added a water repellent layer so the material stays dry and resists rot in all weather. Once the balsa wood scaffold was ready, the researchers filled it with a heat-storing wax called stearic acid. This bio-based phase change material melts and stores energy when heated and solidifies, then releases that energy when cooled. One reason this wood is so thermally efficient is that heat travels along the grain rather than across the surface. This means it moves faster towards an external generator to be turned into power. Impressive performance. To prove that their innovation works, the team ran several tests in a solar simulator that it achieved a photothermal efficiency of 91.27%, meaning almost all the light hitting it became usable heat. The material also stored 175 kilojoules of energy per kilogram. When connected to a thermoelectric generator, the modified balsa wood produced up to 0.65 volts. Beyond energy, it performed well against common hazards that wood structures face outdoors, such as fire, bacteria, and fungi. The hybrid coating also greatly improves fire safety by reducing HRR and THR by 24.4 and 31.2%, respectively, and it works well against E. coli and S. aureus, commented the study's author in their paper. By addressing some of these issues, the team is moving closer to a practical solution for harnessing solar power even after sunset. This work presents a scalable and environmentally friendly wood-based platform for advanced solar thermal energy harvesting. Up next, cardiorespiratory fitness may cut dementia, depression, and psychosis risk. Many studies carried over the past decade have explored the relationship between mental and physical health, showing that the two are often interlinked. One well-established indicator of overall physical health is cardiorespiratory fitness, which is the ability of the heart and lungs to supply oxygen while a person is engaged in sustained physical activity. An international team of researchers led by the University of Castilla-La Mancha in collaboration with the Karolinska Institutet reviewed a large pool of past studies that explored the link between cardiorespiratory fitness and numerous mental health disorders. Their paper, published in Nature Mental Health, suggests that better cardiorespiratory fitness is associated with a significantly lower risk of developing dementia, depression, and psychotic disorders. Our study emerged from a growing interest in understanding mental health from a broader preventative perspective. Dr. Bruno Pozzozzaro Peroni, postdoctoral research at Karolinska Institutet and senior author of the paper, told Medical Express. While physical activity has long been linked to better mental health, we noted that cardiorespiratory fitness, a more objective, intuitive measure of the body's ability to deliver and use oxygen during exercise, had not been systemically synthesized across mental and neurocognitive outcomes. Exploring the link between fitness and mental health. The main goal of the recent work by Pozzozzaro Peroni and his colleagues was to explore the strength and consistency with which cardiorespiratory fitness is associated with the risks of developing various mental and neurocognitive disorders. To do this, they analyzed the findings of past global studies that focused on distinct disorders including anxiety disorders, depression, dementia, schizophrenia, and other psychotic disorders, bipolar disorder, ADHD disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, somatic symptom disorder, and sleep-wake disorder. We conducted a systemic review and meta-analysis of 27 prospective cohort studies, collectively including more than 4 million participants across all age groups, explained Pozzozzaro Peroni. These studies assessed cardiorespiratory fitness, typically measured through exercise tests and estimated capacity, in individuals who were free of mental and neurocognitive disorders at baseline and then followed them over time to examine the incidence of these conditions. By pooling the results of these 27 research studies, the team was able to quantify the associations between high and low cardiorespiratory fitness and the risk of developing different mental health and neurocognitive conditions. To estimate the risk that the people included in this pool set data would develop specific disorders over time, the team calculated so-called hazard ratios. We also specifically examined studies that reported associations per 1 MET increase in cardiorespiratory fitness, allowing us to assess whether even small improvements in fitness were linked to reduced risk, said Pozzozzaro Peroni. A MET, metabolic equivalent of task, is a unit that reflects the energy cost of physical activity. For example, roughly the difference between resting and very light activities such as slow walking. The researchers' analysis revealed that better versus worse cardiorespiratory fitness were consistently associated with a substantially lower risk of developing various disorders in adulthood. Specifically, it was found to be linked to a 36% lower risk of depression, 39% lower risk of dementia, 29% lower risk of psychotic disorders, and a 10% lower risk of anxiety, even if the association was not statistically significant in this case. Up next, Valley's 20-year nature recovery plan begins. From BBC.com, a 20-year plan to restore woodland, peatlands, and rivers is underway. The Upper Duden Landscape Recovery (UDLR) project will work with local farmers, environmental organizations, and the local community to manage 2,800 hectares, 6,918 acres of land in Cumbria's Duden Valley. The project aims to restore habitats such as meadows, heathland, and temperate rainforests, as well as help the recovery of local wildlife such as the tree pipit, pine marten, and water vole. Patty Dady, a tenant farmer involved in the project, said the initiative will allow him to continue the tradition of fell farming while working towards nature recovery. Alongside Natural England, the project is being led by the University of Leeds with local farmers, the National Trust, Forestry England, South Cumbria Rivers Trust, and the University of Cumberland. Project lead Prof. Dom Spracklin from the University of Leeds School of Earth and Environment said this partnership will help farming, forestry, and nature work together. He said 14 jobs will be created in the valley. River reforestation work will aim to improve water quality in the River Duden and its tributaries and reduce the risk of flooding downstream. Didi and 8 farms were being recompensated for being involved in the project. What landscape recovery has given me as one of the farmers is long-term security of income, he said. If I'm getting that long-term security, I'm getting more flowers, I'm getting more insects, I'm getting more birds, I've still got my herdwicks, I've still got my cows, I'm a happy fella. Stephen Bound from Forestry England said the project will help create resilient forests full of ferns, mosses, and breeding songbirds. The challenging access to the forest for timber haulage has been a significant factor driving our reforestation efforts, he added. Timber sourced from the forest will provide the wood needed for the project, including fence posts for local farms. Up next is Finland's new car-free bridge, the longest of its kind in the world. From newatlas.com, Finland just inaugurated its longest bridge, and not a single car or motorcycle will ever be allowed on it. That's because the Kruun Uvuori Bridge, officially opened to the public over the past weekend, is designed only for pedestrians, cyclists, and trams, which will begin rolling out early next year. This 0.74-mile, 1.19-kilometer long bridge is the last of the 3 crown bridges to be built connecting Helsinki's eastern island suburbs with the city center. They allow residents from those areas to easily access everything the city has to offer without compromising on their lifestyle that's strongly tied to spending time out in nature. This one links the Kruun Uvu Oren Ranta residential area on the waterfront, the island of Korkeasaari, the district of Laajasalo, and central Helsinki. Designed by say that 3 times fast, y'all. Designed by UK-based bridge specialists, Knight Architects, and structural engineers WSP Finland, the striking bridge is cable-stayed from a 443-foot tall, 135-meter pylon. According to WSP, its horizontal curvature is based not only on structural reasons, but also on improving the user's experience. By walking on a curved bridge, a person can better perceive the destination. There are also some thoughtful features built into the structure. The tower and pylon's entire facade lights up with colored LEDs that change according to the time of day, as well as the seasons. If you're walking or cycling along the bridge, specially designed railings at the south edge should offer you protection from harsh winds from that direction. And lastly, patterned plastic piping along the cables will cause any ice that accumulates on said cables to simply flake off. It took a total of 100,000 hours design work to bring this all together. This bridge has a planned lifetime of 200 years, which means it's been designed with specific structural design and material choices, and its maintenance is scheduled as such. That includes engineering the reinforced concrete structures in the water exchange area to handle high stress and reducing fatigue in steel joints and stiffeners. Expensive stainless steel on the outer layer of rebarb on the pliers in the sea help prevent corrosion. Expensive stainless steel on the outer layer of rebarb on the piers in the sea help prevent corrosion. Work on the light rail system is ongoing. The idea is to quickly move traffic through the Laajasalo area ahead of its population doubling as a new residential district called Kruun Uvuren Ranta opens up. This will also reduce the projected strain on the eastern branches of Helsinki's metro system. With that, Finland is now home to what's being described as one of the world's largest public transportation bridges in the world. In fact, I couldn't find a longer one that combines pedestrian and light rail traffic, and we're not counting rail-only bridges. So if you know of any I've overlooked, drop it in the comments. With the citizen-friendly design and forward-looking engineering approach, this might be one for the other countries to emulate in the years to come. Up next, woman who won legal case over greenhouse gas emissions awarded top environmental prize. From theguardian.com, the woman whose campaigning set a legal precedent in the UK that stopped thousands of tons of greenhouse gas emissions has been awarded one of the world's most prestigious environmental prizes alongside 5 other women from around the globe. The Supreme Court ruling in a case brought by Sarah Finch has been cited in decisions against new oil concessions in the North Sea, the UK's first new deep coal mine for 30 years, and even plans for new large-scale factory farms. On Monday, she was named as one of 6 recipients of the Goldman Environmental Prize, awarded annually to honor the achievements and leadership of grassroots environmental activists from around the world. Finch was the named applicant on a legal case that in 2024 became a turning point in UK climate law. In the Finch ruling, Supreme Court stipulated that any decision to approve new fossil fuel projects must take into account the effect of burning of coal, oil, or gas extracted would have on the climate. It has been a game changer for environmental campaigners, said Mel Evans, the head of campaigns at Greenpeace UK. The ruling also aligned UK law more closely with climate science, which has always shown how the main impact of fossil fuel industry on climate change comes from burning its products. Finch has been awarded the prize along with 5 other women drawn from each of the world's 6 primary regions, making up the first all-female roster of winners in the Goldman Prize 37-year history. They are Iroro Tenshi, a Nigerian conservation ecologist who launched a successful community-led campaign to protect endangered bats from human-induced wildfires. Borim Kim, a South Korean activist who won the continent's first successful youth-led climate litigation, finding her government's climate policy to be in violation of the rights of future generations. Alana Akak Hurley, a leader of the Yupik indigenous people, led a campaign that stopped what would have been the continent's largest open-pit mine in Alaska's Bristol Bay region. Yuvelis Morales Blanco, a youth activist who mobilized others in her Afro-descendant community in Puerto Wilches against 2 drilling projects preventing the introduction of commercial fracking into Colombia. Theonila Roca Matab, of Papua New Guinea, whose campaign forced Rio Tinto, the world's second-largest mining company, to sign an agreement to address devastation caused by its Panguna mine. Founded in 1889 by philanthropists Rhoda and Richmond Goldman, the Goldman Prize has to date honored 239 winners, including 112 women from 98 nations. Many have gone on to take up positions as government officials, heads of states, NGO leaders, and Nobel Prize laureates. The true leaders can be found all around us, said John Goldman, vice president of the Goldman Environmental Foundation, hailing the winners. The 2026 prize winners are proof positive that courage, hard work, and hope can go a long way towards creating meaningful progress. I am especially thrilled to honor our first ever cohort of 6 women, as this is a powerful reflection of the absolutely central role that women play in the environmental community globally. Up next, Colorado University looks to dogs for breakthrough in human cognitive health. From 9news.com. Dogs may be known as man's best friend, but researchers at Colorado State University say they could play a key role in advancing science. Students and staff there are studying cognitive decline in dogs to better understand diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's in humans. This is all part of a broader national effort known as the Dog Aging Project. For many Colorado families, dogs are more than pets. Our dogs are our family members, so we care about them just as much as all the people in our family, said Jordy Hall, who enrolled his 11-year-old beagle, Elle, in the study alongside his wife, Jen. The research focuses on how dogs' brains change over time, both during life and after death. Students and faculty, including Carolyn Dobkins and Associate Professor Julie Moreno, are working to determine how closely canine brain aging mirrors that of humans. We needed to determine that the dog's brain, as it aged, did indeed look like a human's brain. We are able to establish that it did, and it's very similar to humans, Moreno said. One reason dogs are particularly valuable to this research is their shorter lifespan. Moreno explained that the acceleration of dogs' life helps us, noting that comparable human studies would take decades to produce similar results. The dogs also go home and live with us, so they're exposed to the same environment, Moreno said. Cognitive decline is not uncommon in aging dogs. Researchers estimate that about 30% of dogs over the age of 12 experience some level of decline. Scientists hope that studying these changes will lead to breakthroughs that benefit both veterinary and human medicine. Being able to help veterinary medicine as well as human medicine is such an advantage, Moreno said. The work also carries personal meaning for those involved. Some researchers and participants have witnessed the effects of cognitive diseases firsthand. I lost my dad right before starting at CSU to frontotemporal dementia, which is similar to Alzheimer's but affects younger people in a different part of the brain. This spoke to me as a student and also on a personal level, Dobkins said. My grandfather had dementia and passed away only a year ago from it, and seeing the decline was obviously really sad, Hall said. Researchers say the goal is also to improve quality of life for both pets and people. Helping all these families, both furry and non-furry, sticking together is a really good feeling, Hall said. The study at Colorado State University is open to dogs of all ages and breeds, and participation is free. Organizers say more information about CSU's involvement in this research is available on their website. Up next, Child Lost Football Club, a lifeline for dads. From BBC.com, a football club which was set up to help fathers who have experienced the loss of a child is described as a lifeline by bereaved dads, the English Football League has said. Blackburn Rovers Dads FC, which sees players getting together for a free match run by qualified coaches from Blackburn Rovers Community Trust, has been named EFL Championship Community Project of the Season. The men are also offering support, and many stay in contact beyond the group, holding social events or sharing fundraising. The award recognizes an outstanding club charity project that delivers meaningful and lasting change for the people of the local community beyond football. Starting with just 2 dads, Blackburn Rovers Dads FC has now grown to 25 members meeting for weekly football sessions. It provides an informal space combining football, conversation, and specialist support. Founder Sarah Bernasconi Parsons from Maggie's Stillbirth Legacy, a charity that supports bereaved families, said she had the idea to set up the team because men and sports goes hand in hand. Gary Robinson, Chief Executive Officer at Blackburn Rovers Community Trust, said, "The award is a testament to the compassion, commitment, and support the project provides to bereaved dads in our community." Up next, Hawaiian green sea turtles emerge as reef defenders against invasive algae. From phys.org, an invasive algae already well established in the northern Hawaiian Islands is raising concern among researchers as it threatens to spread into the main Hawaiian Islands. Scientists from the University of Hawaii at Manoa in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have identified a potential ally in slowing its advance: sea turtles. Hawaiian green sea turtles, honu, have been documented for the first time actively grazing on Chondria tumulosa, an aggressive invasive red algae that has spread rapidly across reefs among 3 of the northernmost atolls in Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. The findings, recently published in the journal Coral Reefs by researchers, suggest that honu may play a meaningful role in controlling this ecologically damaging species while also potentially spreading it. After these exciting finds, our multi-partner effort to prevent this seaweed from taking hold in the main Hawaiian Islands must include a plan to increase numbers of threatened native green sea turtles, as well as ramping up efforts to identify all routes that could allow Chondria to spread to Oahu, said Celia Smith, UH Manoa's School of Life Sciences professor and senior author of the study. Dangers of sea tumulosa. First detected at Manaue, Pearl, and Hermes Atoll in 2016, C. tumulosa has since expanded to more than 101 square kilometers of reef habitat, nearly the size of Kaho'olale, including Kauai Halani, Midway Atoll in 2021, and Holaniku, Kure Atoll in 2022. The alga forms dense mats more than 6 centimeters thick that can smother live coral and displace native reef species, making it one of the most pressing threats to the monument's reef ecosystems. Turtles take a bite. Using a stationary GoPro camera deployed on a reef at Midway Atoll in June and July 2025, the research team captured approximately 50 minutes of footage showing 3 honu grazing on sea tumulsa mats. The female took up to 18 bites in a 95-second burst, leaving disruptions 5 to 15 centimeter in diameter across the algal canopy, substantially larger than what urchins and fish could achieve. A complementary necropsy of a stranded adult female confirmed sea tumulsa fragments throughout her digestive tract, accounting for roughly 25% of the material in her esophagus and crop. These turtles consume a meaningful amount of this alga in a single foraging session, says Tammy Summers, USFWS staff biologist and co-author of the study. It's exciting because it points to honu as a native mega herbivore with the potential to suppress sea tumulsa biomass, but it also raises important questions about whether fragments excreted during their migrations between atolls could accelerate the alga's spread. The findings carry immediate management implications because 96% of Hawaiian green sea turtles nesting occurs at Lalo, French frigate shoals, before individuals disperse for foraging grounds across the archipelago. The authors recommended eDNA monitoring at Lalo to track potential spread of C. tumulosa beyond its known range. Up next, woman's Sorry marathon record inspires others to run. From BBC.com, A woman set the Guinness World Record for running the fastest marathon in a sari, said she was inundated with messages from people inspired by her feat. Madhusmita Jenna, 46, from Stockport, smashed the previous record by more than 12 minutes as she ran the Manchester Marathon on Sunday in a time of 3 hours and 45 minutes. The mother of two set herself the goal of showing people that women from all ethnic backgrounds could race in whatever they felt comfortable in, said she was bowled over by amazing support she got on the day. She said she had other people from South Asian descent messaging me from places like Stockport, Manchester, all saying they now want to start running. Madhusmita was interviewed before the race for Radio Manchester's BBC Sound series 26.2 Ways to Run a Marathon, and said some who listened had got in touch to say they were inspired by her story. Madhusmita, a SEND teacher who has run 42 marathons, beat the previous record set by Kranti Salvi from India, who ran the Berlin Marathon in Germany in 3 hours, 57 minutes, and 7 seconds in September 2018. She told BBC Radio Manchester that at the 21-kilometer mark, she was thinking, keep going, don't get excited. But by the 30-kilometer mark, she decided she could push through and mount a challenge for the record. So many people came to me to take selfies with me and said, oh, you were on the BBC. Indian men told me their wives wanted to run after listening to the podcast. It was amazing. She also raised £2,300 for special school equipment at the site she works in Stockport that helps SEND pupils with conditions like cerebral palsy communicate with teachers. Up next, report notes 3 European nations reach 90% HPV vaccine uptake in girls, from sidrap.umn.edu. This week marks European Immunization Week, and the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control today highlighted a new report marking 15 years of human papillomavirus vaccination in the region. Now, all European Union countries have HPV recommendations in place for both adults and girls and boys. 3 countries, Iceland, Portugal, and Norway, have reached the 2024 target of 90% HPV vaccination among girls by the age of 15 years. Since 2020, the EDDC said all European countries have reported a decreased incidence of cervical cancer among vaccinated women. The elimination of cervical cancer in the EU EEAA is becoming an achievable goal thanks to the HPV vaccination programs. The progress we are seeing across Europe demonstrates what can be accomplished when countries invest consistently in effective immunization strategies, said Bruno Ciancio, MD, MS, head of the ECDC's Directly Transmitted Diseases and Vaccine Preventable Diseases Unit in an ECDC statement. Vaccine coverage dashboard launched. The report shares a growing body of research conducted in European countries showing sustained prevention against cervical cancer among HPV vaccine recipients. A Swedish study revealed that vaccination of girls before the age of 17 reduced the incidence of cervical cancer by 88%. The ECDC also announced today the launch of a new dashboard which will display vaccination coverage for HPV and other vaccine preventable infections across the European Union. The ECDC said the dashboard will give transparent, up-to-date overview of how each European country is performing in terms of vaccination coverage. Up next, tiny North Carolina town takes a big step towards geothermal energy. From canarymedia.com, a small rural town with big clean energy dreams just passed a key milestone on its quest to lower costs and strengthen resilience. A seed grant of nearly $300,000 will jumpstart a neighborhood form of geothermal energy that can heat, cool, and provide hot water to households. If the nonprofit that secured the money, Enfield Energy Futures, can raise the rest of the $5 million it needs for the pilot project, the town's electrical utility could become the first in the Southeast to deploy this kind of technology, joining a small but growing number that are following the lead of Eversource Energy in Framingham, Massachusetts. The community is super bought into the idea that we are looking beyond dirty energy, said Mondale Robinson, the 46-year-old mayor of this town about 30 miles south of the Virginia border, one of the poorest and blackest in America. Since late 2023, Robinson and the team who formed the Enfield nonprofit have been holding town hall meetings to vet and refine their ambitious goals for low-cost energy independence. Their plans include a town-run solar farm, a weatherization hub to help residents access grants for insulating their homes and upgrading appliances, and a revamp of the town's dilapidated grid, which suffers frequent outages. The geothermal project, called a thermal energy network, is part of this larger vision. The pilot project would serve as an upcoming affordable housing development that Robinson is spearheading, made up of 34 townhomes in Southeast Enfield. Eventually, the group hopes to expand the geothermal network to the entire town of some 2,000, providing a sizable chunk of the community's energy needs. If you're a Black Enfield resident, either new or one with deep roots like myself, you know what permanent neglect looks like, said Robinson, who grew up in a segregated part of town where indoor plumbing wasn't a given, even in the 1980s. The thermal energy network, he said, could serve as a model for what's possible in rural Black spaces throughout the Black Belt in North Carolina and the South at large. Rural communities can lead the clean energy transition. A political organizer and consultant who has worked around the world, Robinson returned to his hometown and was elected mayor during the Biden administration. Together with a coterie of climate advocates, academics, and other local leaders, Robinson hoped to tap funds from the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, Biden's signature climate law, and other government initiatives to help realize his vision for Enfield. Then, President Donald Trump was elected. In a matter of months, Trump and the Republican Congress took a wrecking ball to federal support for clean energy, clawing back funds from Biden-area climate programs and drastically curtailing tax incentives for efficiency and renewable energy. The Trump administration's assault on clean energy has undoubtedly been a setback, said William Munn, a former regional director at Vote Solar, who is now a consultant and acts as Enfield Energy Futures executive director. The federal situation really screwed up our strategic plan, he said, but the group is determined to press on. We're being creative, Munn said. We're finding ways to do all of the things. The geothermal pilot project is a prime example. Geothermal is among the few sources of carbon-free energy that survived last summer's federal purge on tax credits. That means the Enfield project can access a 30 to 40% federal incentive as long as it begins construction by 2033, and none of its components are produced by countries deemed a foreign entity of concern. With the tax credit still alive there, it just makes natural sense, said Helen Whitley, a climate entrepreneur and longtime member of the Enfield team. And lastly, we have, in Malaysia, a bridge helps endangered langurs and humans coexist. From news.mangabay.com, Malaysia, the 50-year-old mango tree growing through Tan Sri Sia's second-story terrace is a favorite stopping place for the family of endangered monkeys that has taken up residence in a small park near his home in Malaysia's Penang state. Since everybody chases them away, I try to let them have a rest here, says Tan, 64, who likes to watch the dusky langurs from his bedroom window, peeking up at them playing in the foliage. Not everyone in Taman Concord, a residential community home mostly for retirees like Tan, is as taken with the langurs as he is. Around 3 years ago, the monkeys were inciting complaints from seniors who were fed up with langurs leaping across their houses, damaging their rooftops, and denuding their gardens. Perhilliton, Malaysia's wildlife agency, was summoned. The agency's typical methods for dealing with conflict animals include installing deterrents, trapping and relocation, and as a last resort, culling. This time, Perhilliton called the Langur Project Penang, a social enterprise founded by Malaysian primatologist Yap Jo Lin. Yap Jo Lin? Okay. Yap's team of citizen scientists spent months diagnosing the problem, tracking the monkeys' movements, and interviewing local residents. The group ultimately built a canopy bridge made from old fire hoses to help the langurs safely cross a busy road and expand their range, relieving pressure on Taman Concord. Today, Tan and his neighbors are learning to live with the langurs, who regularly use the bridge known as the Numi's Crossing, named for a young langur that met his end after repeatedly falling from slippery power lines during LPP's field work. I don't keep the window open anymore. Peninsular Malaysia has lost more than half its forest cover since 1900, as its human population has climbed from 1.7 million to 25 million. What jungle remains is increasingly fragmented by roads and buildings, pushing wildlife into ever more frequent contact with humans. Perhilliton receives about 5,000 to 13,000 wildlife complaints a year. Invariably topping the list of species people call them about is the long-tailed macaw, the gray-brown monkey commonly found near roadsides and tourist sites. Its boldness around humans has earned it the reputation of being a nuisance, but the species is in fact listed as endangered on the IUCN's Red List. Last year in Port Dickson, a fast-growing beach town south of Kuala Lumpur, Aziza Abbas was alone in her home reciting the Quran when she heard a loud noise in the next room. She went to find a pair of macaws devouring her Eid cookies. Horrified, the 84-year-old picked up a wooden stick and chased them around the living room, resulting in 2 broken bowls before they were scampered out the window they'd come through. I don't keep the window open anymore, says Aziza, who also resigned herself to no longer cultivating fruit in her garden in favor of bitter-tasting plants like batel and sachia inchi that the macaws won't eat. And that is the end of this episode's articles. Hopefully they added a little positive joy to your life. Before we end, I have our final segment of the show, something I like to call a tale of two paragraphs. In this segment, I take the first and last part of an article on Substack or another similar source and read them to you, to encourage you to go read the article yourself. Many people forget the power of the written word to move us and how intriguing the middle of the story is. The less I read, the better, but people often want to know how we got to endings more than the endings themselves. And maybe then you will go exploring the Substack and read the paragraphs in between. This week's article is from Chris Erskine, entitled Hail Smarticus. Not afraid of much anymore. Goths, the curled, uncooked parts of bacon, my late wife's ghost. That about covers it. A jogger ran across some freshly oiled blacktop with his dog the other morning, the poor pooch leaving footprints in the wet goo. Ugh. Imagine the pads of his paws. We all make mistakes, usually when we rush. Best not to leave oily fingerprints, though. Later, I told Suzanne that 95% of mistakes happen when we rush, and she responded that 70% of the magic also happens. A few paragraphs in between, and an ending of, the other day he comes up to me, flaunting his 4-inch height advantage and suggesting I'm shrinking, as older people will. I'm not wearing shoes, I explain. Neither am I, he says. Go away, I say. With him home, everything smells of his socks, his aura, his garlic fries he had for dessert. Will I miss this maddening phase? This late lingering childhood? Not so much. Bless you. For more from Chris Erskine, visit chriserskinela.com. We hope you enjoyed our show, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, so I won't. Have a good day.